I have missed you all so much. I am really excited to be back, and I really thank all of you for your patience and kindness, and I hope you're as excited as I am to continue diving deep into tarot and being back into the swing of things. While I have been gone, I was creating content over on Patreon, which I do implore you to go check out. It's actually fun because I do also want to put this out there as a PSA. I am actually, over the course of October, going to focus on fun, spooky stuff. So any questions you guys have, we're going to be diving into. I'm going to be going to the Akashic Records about. So anything from like supernaturals to like, I actually want to look into like those staircases that are like in forests and stuff like that. You know, you name it, we're going to be talking about it this month. But in general, the content I was posting beforehand over there, I made a video about why, you see faces in things and like what that means, like, like in trees and clouds and like wherever you see it. I tend to see faces in like prints, like tiles, like in the floor and stuff like that. I talk about actually some supernatural communities and in general, like, do they remember their like transformations, stuff like that. We continue our conversation about twin flames. We talk about hair. We started a series discussing the spiritual meaning behind hair. There was a message and a channeling from the spirit of earth. We talk about the spiritual meaning of pyramids. The list actually goes on and on. There's quite a lot of content I have been posting over there. So if you are interested, please go check that out. And please go leave your questions because I'm really excited to, go into that. Anyways, that's over on there. Also, just a reminder, as per usual, I have my courses. If you are interested in doing any of this stuff yourself, I find all of these tools that I use, from tarot to meditation to traveling to the spirit realm, extremely helpful in my everyday life. Just putting that out there. If you're interested, all that's found in the description below. But let's go to our topic of today, which is October predictions. Now, in October predictions, traditionally I focus on categories, but this time we're doing it a little more freelance, whatever pops up, Again, I always keep it extremely wide ranged of whatever's the most valuable for you to hear. And the coolest thing about it is you're either hearing stuff you get excited about and things you can kind of clues to look out for it. And if there is anything that isn't necessarily what you want to hear, we're talking about it so you can change it to the thing that you enjoy or realize the benefit you can get out of it so it's a much more positive experience. So I'm really pumped about doing all of that. I missed you guys so much. Please also give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out, and I just would love this kind of comeback video to get viewed as much as possible. That would be really kind and helpful if you could interact with this video in that kind of way. Other than that, though, we have our 4 groups in front of us. So we've got group number 1, which is a Sunstone crystal. Group number 2, a Howlite. Group number 3, I apologize, I think this is a rainbow aurora, like quartz. And then group number 4, black tourmaline. So I'm going to give you a moment to connect to the vibes of October and make a decision from that perspective. I'll only give you a second to do that. Now that you have, you can go enjoy yourself by going down to the description and skipping to your designated group. Let's get going. Let's get started. Did I mention I missed you guys so much? Love you guys. Let's see you in the first group. Group number 1. Let's look at your Halloween predictions by looking at the cards. Starting off with your first tarot card, we have the Hierophant in reverse. I always love to know, do you guys like to say Hierophant or is it Fant? Which one is it? Then we have the Page of Pentacles in reverse. Then we have the Devil card upright. Look at her. She's so pumped to be going out. We've got the Eight of Pentacles upright and the Ace of Swords upright. Give me just one moment to look at everything here, and then I will be with you in one moment. I can already tell this is definitely going to be a month full of decisions being made, and I will clarify that in 1 second, but just let me look at everything. Yeah, okay. So this is what I thought. Okay. So the idea of making decisions is going to make more and more sense as we pull through, but it's really interesting when you get into reading tarot in general. Sometimes things are just kind of come your way, and I guess there's a certain element of that happening here, but other times it's like letting you know predestined moods or inklings, or like this is the strongest and highest possibility of you being in this mindset to feel naturally motivated to make those decisions. And what I love about when those things naturally pop up in the cards is sometimes we have to talk about things that initially may appear uncomfortable or not the thing that you were anticipating to experience. But the cool thing about it is the cards are saying, no, this is a fantastic thing. When you see this or feel this, step into that because it's going to equal this. And I love that because while life has a lot of different, ups and downs, it can actually be a lot more enjoyable than we may allow ourselves to realize, and we can make situations that appear one way really work for us in another, and we can always change things. But this is not one of those things that you would want to change. You would enjoy the process. So starting off, we're actually going to do a little bit of a reverse situation here. We're starting off with the Ace of Swords. This was really interesting how my spirit guide kind of explained the full concept. They said it represented the idea of core ideas leaving you by the end of the month. And when we say core ideas, it's like the concept that others, maybe judgments or thought processes stem from. You come back to it when you go, well, this is why I would make this decision. These core ideas just don't work for you anymore. They are something that you just don't feel like you can, I'm so sorry, rely on, and they're not benefiting you anymore. And it's something really interesting my spirit guide said. They said, not all negative experiences or things that make you uncomfortable, because when these ideas you are deciding to leave them behind, there are some uncomfortable situations popping up in the month to motivate you to let them go naturally. Not all of these quote unquote negative experiences are consequences for your actions, they said. Sometimes things need to work out in this way because it's basically putting in front of you, hey, do you like this? And you're, adversely going, I don't like this. I don't want this anymore. And then this is how you came to that conclusion in order to let it go. This is something to always think about. Sometimes we aren't willing to allow ourselves to look at something and go, you're right, I should rethink this. This isn't working for me anymore. Maybe you're afraid to face it. Maybe it's a blockage and you just can't look at it. So when you feel it coming up and there is initially that reaction of you being like, I don't like how I'm feeling, I feel a little uncomfortable, stop. You're not in trouble. You didn't do something to cause something else bad. You're just being given a moment to realize through contrast, this isn't for you anymore. So let that be a comfort to you that those moments that are happening are just short. They can be even shorter by you realizing this and just going, oh, I'm having a moment where I'm realizing an idea I don't want anymore. And then the beautiful thing is leaving core concepts behind by the end of the month really opens you up for a beautiful fall winter season where you're really able to make choices from the new you, the new revised vision of you. And it's really exciting to get to know who that is and see if that process of thinking, that new way of interacting with the world, is much more beneficial for you. So think of yourself as like like a little experiment of trial and error. You know what I mean? And you're just removing the things that you don't want anymore, and you're sort of testing grounds, if you will, of yourself and your life. Now, then we have the Eight of Pentacles, which this one I would say, my spirit guide didn't say is important, but I'll be honest with you, as somebody who also lives in the physical world, this one is going to be really comforting with this other stuff going on through the month. So this just basically, my spirit guide was talking about how this individual is building a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns for this fence. And obviously you want to imagine the fence being kind of long, it's a process, but they're really like, they have a clear intention of like, this is the project, this is the goal they're working on, they're having a lot of fun with working on it, and it's something that's going to take a while. That's what my spirit guide said, that it's going to be something you want to pick up and work on all month. So what is it that you want to pick on? Just a project. And I said, does it need to be anything in particular? Because, you know, maybe there's like a craft project, maybe there's something in your career that you can focus on all month, but it's something that is going to, you're aware is going to take a little while and be a focus for you throughout the month. And my spirit guide described this as like a comfort. And I agree, because because we do have this concept popping up a few times of things that are a little maybe uncomfortable throughout the month, you can always kind of like distract yourself and pull away from those moments and go to where you do feel comfortable, but feeling like you have this steady thing to rely on without having to put greater thought into it. And what I mean by this idea is, and please let me know if you experience this in the comments as well, you know when you go to watch something and you go to like entertain yourself and you're like scrolling, you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to watch, and every day you're like thinking about it for a second and scrolling for a while, and then there's those joyful time periods where you know, I'm so sorry, you know exactly what you're going to watch, whether that you have all your movies laid out, or maybe there's a TV show you're binging, and it's comforting every time you return to this time period where you're like, I have this TV show I'm going to enjoy. So it's like you have this project all month that you're working on, and when you have those moments where you're like, I didn't really like how that initially made me feel, you can just sort of relax, reconnect to you, have a really fun, wonderful month, and keep in mind, just because we mentioned these uncomforts, that doesn't mean you're going to have a bad month at all, but this is just like keeping you focused and steady on realizing that you are enjoying yourself throughout the month. And I was told that by you choosing to do this, it will leave you with a deep sense of accomplishment. And my spirit guide said that there would be a lot of other deeply positive emotional ties with this. So it's almost like a concept of like you feeling like the end of the month you connected a little bit of your worth to this accomplishment, and you're feeling like extra worthy. You're feeling like, wow, look at what I did, how cool. Maybe it realize, wow, I can really stick to something, or whatever may have you. So it's not just like a distraction or just purely a fun thing to do. There's like a huge emotional payoff by the end of it. So it's a great way to spend the month, and you're going to have just this soaring uplifting of like energies and mood and like frequencies. So love that for you. Now this goes a little bit back to that uncomfortable idea again, but it's actually not as uncomfortable as it seems. While over here, there is a little bit of a reaction when you're figuring out core ideas that you're letting it go and you're like, ooh, I didn't like that feeling. The devil card's different. My spirit guide said, look at how this individual faces things that, did you say unhealthy or don't work for you? Okay, the first one. Okay. Because this person is facing these things, but facing them with a sense of glee. And there is these interesting moments where normally things that you don't love, that you feel like you want to pull away from, that are maybe by looking at them, these like parts of yourself or these experiences. Usually this card relates to like habits. Is it habits or parts of themselves? My spirit guide said solely habits and tangible things. Okay, perfect. So these are things that are going to be like not metaphorical. This is more metaphorical. These are ideas. These are concepts. This is you being like, I don't love that I practice this habit regularly. And you are just facing it with like deep happiness. But how do I explain this happiness? it's not like a light-hearted content happiness. It's kind of like you've been pushed to a point that you kind of see the humor in the darkness, and you're like, it's very much this type of attitude where you're like, oh, okay, you know what? Let's go. Let's go do this. Let's take care of this. And you can laugh at it to a certain degree, and it causes you to have this kind of interesting energy that then gives you the motivation to face it. But there is a sense of like facing and dealing with it and getting rid of it. And from that sense of fun, mixed energy, there is an empowerment in the process of it. So that's going to be a really interesting moment where it almost feels like from you feeling uncomfortable with certain ideals you're letting go, you have enough of those experiences throughout the month that it causes you to be like, you know what? I'm done. Let's go. Let's fix this, and kind of laugh and realize going forward. And this is something my spirit guide was talking about, that going forward when you approach uncomfortable subjects or ideas, you realize you can take on this attitude, that you can kind of see the cosmic joke of it all, that you are capable of getting rid of it, changing it, whatever may have you, and that it doesn't have to be anything that controls you any longer. And this sort of headspace enables you to take back control. Because that's a big thing I will say with the overall general traditional view of the card, is this concept of control. Now, while it is good to like be with the flow and let things go, sometimes we do need to take on that perspective of control, but control within ourselves and our surroundings and our circumstances. And so I love this for you. It is an interesting, different dynamic. But remember, we've got that Eight of Pentacles to rely back on to sort of decompress. Now, we're actually going to skip over to the Hierophant. Again, this is an interesting form of decision making. I was trying to ask more details if there's something specific that would kind of like pop up that you would notice it. But my spirit guide just simply said that this would be like obvious to you. It would be like an in the moment type of thing you're seeing. But this is about this idea of you leaving, like in the imagery, you leaving this box of something you feel you have to do. The Hierophant, while it is connected to like more traditional ideas and being more traditional or following like a doctrine isn't necessarily a negative thing, for you, this is a circumstance where you think like, I have to do this. This is the only way. I've been told I have to do this. This is the only way of life. And this is you just kind of having this moment where in the month of October, you're like, no, I don't. I'm realizing, I'm waking up, as we talked about over here. I don't think I have to. I thought I had to my whole life. I'm leaving this. This isn't working for me anymore. I'm breaking free of this, which is really interesting because while I'm speaking a lot about these in a very positive and lighthearted way, and you can treat the month like this, when I'm looking at a lot of context of these cards, these are like, this is a very big shifting month for you. You're leaving certain things behind, you're tackling other things head on, and then full on you're making this really big, I think it's a very big life-changing decision, and it feels very life-changing in general. For this specific circumstance we're talking about in this particular reading. But I would say it's like a big life-changing thing to realize something you thought you absolutely had to do. You don't. I mean, that really changes up your day-to-day life quite a lot and in a positive way, because it opens you up for, well, what do you want to do? Well, you are taking control back. What would that look like? Now, last but not least, again, I do love to focus on the positive stuff, but we do want to talk about whatever pops up in the cards in order for you to get what you need to have the best month possible. So in the Page of Pentacles in reverse, my spirit guide said there is like a strong like possibility where you could potentially view money throughout the month as something where you're really like focused on making like passive income or starting a new business, which is okay that you want to make money, but this headspace, my spirit guide said, doesn't work for you at all. They said that this is just not how you manifest. They said that you manifest really well from relaxation, focus, and this is really interesting, challenges, which isn't surprising that they keep popping up in your life. Remember, we're not talking about challenges where it's like the worst thing ever, frustrating. but you like to experience something, like you benefit. Well, I wouldn't say you like, it's like, I mean, that's to you subjectively. It's more that there is a positive benefit for you facing something that challenges you. But remember, challenging can be like a puzzle. It doesn't have to be a negative experience. So anything that's like, so for example, these are moments that you're challenging ideas, like you're challenging more like, again, like a doctrine, you're challenging ideas, you're challenging habits, but sometimes challenges could be like, let's say you're stepping forward into a business or in your business you have now, and you're like, how could I do this differently than everybody else? And that would be said challenge. So that's something to remember going forward. You're really making sure to check in with yourself regularly, and and this is just like a great attitude in general to have. Every now and then, maybe like every hour, every couple hours, check in with yourself. Do you feel relaxed? And if you don't, stop what you're doing, take a second, find your inner cool, meditate, listen to a song, whatever you feel like you vibe with, and you're just going to re-decompress. But you're always checking in with yourself to make that your new neutral, your new norm. And in addition to you feeling relaxed, you're going to then focus on whatever that goal is. So let's say you set the goal of like, you would like to have more money in your life, understandably. When I look at this attitude, this feels like it's not like you're coming off desperate. It's more like you're like, ooh, I really think it's about time that I bring in more money. And that's understandable, but that does give a headspace that it's showing importance to you right now. And that's understandable. So this is you going, okay, now I'm focused. I'm going to focus on money, but you're not going to focus on the want of money. You're going to focus on, I like the idea that money is always flowing to me. I like the idea that I find it easy to connect or magnetize to money. But you're staying focused. Like nothing derails you from this concept. You're staying on that linear state, which makes sense again when we go back to the Eight of Pentacles. It's like you're teaching yourself the idea of consistent focus on one project at a time and the benefits you have from it. So you're staying on it unwavering. And then last but not least, you're every now and then checking in with yourself and saying, well, because I benefit from challenge, how can I therefore challenge myself? So again, that challenge doesn't always have to be a confrontation. We would love to not have that for you. That challenge could be, how could I view my life differently or improve it? How could I do something different than others? How can I challenge myself to create more but feel like it's not as difficult, like do it in an easier way? Could I challenge myself to view this situation in a new light? Do you see what I'm saying here? So staying consistent with those things are going to be much more beneficial than thinking the answer of, again, passive income or just starting a new business is the answer right now. In fact, actually, sometimes when it comes to manifesting money, it does us really well to have kind of like a prep time period, like a before a prequel time period. So definitely, like it doesn't mean you can't start a business next month or something like that, but maybe instead focus your energy towards the idea of the focus, relaxation, and challenge, and see, can you bring more money to you just by doing those things? I mean, the challenge things is already naturally happening in the month, and we already foresee you winning those things and those being easy for you to overcome. And so there you go. So I love this for you. Happy October. Very exciting for you. A lot of positive, exciting things. Please take the Eight of Pentacles seriously. I would think this is a really great constant for you. So go think of like a project you want to work on for the month, and please let me know in the comments below what it is. I love projects too. Please feel free to share the ideas. Everyone share their projects below, and we can have a good craft time. So anyways, love you. See you in the next one, and let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's look at your Halloween predictions by looking at the cards. We have as your first tarot card, Judgment and Reverse. Then we have the Star card in reverse. These are beautiful cards. Then we have 7 of Wands in reverse. Oh, wow, the Justice card in reverse. Okay. And the World card in reverse. Wow, feels like a very intense month. Give me a second to look at the details and I will come back to you in one moment. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So, this is going to be a bit of a, well, not a bit. It is, okay. So, there are some factors going on here that will be of importance greatly in the star card in reverse, but we'll get to that in one moment. So, first, let's start in reverse with the world card in reverse. So this imagery right here is we have a little black cat and they are jumping over this planet. And my spirit guide described it as them looking for an opportunity to step outside of not just their current surroundings, like think of like the world representing something smaller, like your community or something like that. And Saturn is like really going above and beyond outside of the general way of thinking, location, kind of like everything type of concept. So with it being reversed, it's referring to an internal thing. And my spirit guide said that you want to take advantage of when that opportunity presents itself. That's how they described it. Like there's going to be an opportunity. Oh, my spirit guide's incorrect. There's going to be this opportunity where you have a chance to think and speak and make a decision outside of what is the norm of your current community, situation, whatever may have you. So let's expound upon this idea a little more so that you can better foresee this and understand this idea. This would be an example, like let's say everybody in your little, wherever you're at and you regularly function, doesn't believe in the idea of like owning cats, right? Nobody has cats. And there's this moment where you're kind of being kind of pulled back into like, maybe you're going to go into some setting and you have to go to that setting. It's like an event or something and you were like obligated to go there. And you can see in the distance there is a truck and they're holding animals and they reference, some sort of rescue center. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to go check that out. Kind of like it would be referencing that. And this would be you leaving that event, that thing that you thought you had to do type of thing and being like, you know what? No, I'm going to go, like it might not be available in my town. I'll go to the next town and I'll just like get a cat and I'll just make it happen. I'll figure it out. I'm going to make a decision outside of what everyone else is doing. But I got more of a vibe when my spirit guide was describing it, that it's more of like a thought process. Like everybody chooses to act instinctually and sort of a survival mode one way, and you're thinking above and beyond of the actions, the ideas, you're thinking outside of the box. But the main thing is you are going to notice this opportunity. Is there any hint they would have for this opportunity? Okay, so my spirit guide said it's not a singular opportunity, it's opportunities throughout the month. And these are more opportunities that you can create. So they don't always have to seem very obvious. Like you can make them an out of the world type of thinking, a contrast and something different outside of what is in your normal social circle of thought process. Anytime you want to do that, anytime you choose it, every time somebody says, oh, do you want to do this? You could then make that said opportunity. But again, you're seeking them. So this is important. You're practicing realizing that if you view the world as a bunch of opportunities, then it is. So you're practicing the idea of seeking opportunities, and you're also seeking them to exercise a totally like out of this regular norm, not just your local situation you're in, but like above and beyond thought processing. And it's important to know that this takes practice. So definitely take advantage of this many opportunities throughout the month so you can get better at naturally connecting to this part of yourself. And I feel like this can be aided by what we were going to talk about in the Judgment card in reverse, so keep that in mind. That will definitely help you get into that headspace, but we'll come back to this in a second. So then we have the Justice card in reverse, and my spirit guide did say that there is like a very heavy imbalance in your karmic situation right now. So what does that exactly mean? Essentially, we all have it. And the thing that's really interesting is, when you are living life, if you don't, first of all, you can just go basically heal karma very easily from going to the spirit realm, talking to your spirit guides, asking what you can work on with that. I do highly recommend it. I have my intuition training course if you're interested in going to the spirit realm and just naturally working on those things. But the point is, naturally, if people aren't aware of that as a resource, you're living life, and the way you're interacting with it and making decisions is you healing or severing these past experiences or ties that basically just keep repeating themselves until you solve it, you deal with it. So the thing is, when we talk about heavy imbalance, this is sort of like it having been backed up, if you will. And it's important that you've had some things you've been needing to face for a while, and you're going to need to face them. The main thing my spirit guide said that are the imbalances you're going to heal or either cut off, you're healing it by getting rid of it completely, or you're facing it and coming to terms with it another way, are specifically relationships. And I asked, what kind do you mean? And they said all kinds of relationships. So friendship, romantic, whatever. And then social norms. So this is something important that you'll notice we're going to reflect on over here in the Seven of Wands in reverse. But those are the main things that you're looking out for, and you need to kind of stop making excuses and deal with it. People that aren't good for you, you need to get rid of them. Situations where you and somebody else have had issues for a while, and both of you are avoiding it and just need to talk about those things. Talk about them. Anytime, and this is important with the social norm, anytime you kind of feel like you're still making decisions around the concern of, well, what would other people think, or this isn't what everybody else is doing, you need to stop that and kind of break free of that mold, which we talked about over here. Now we're going to talk about that more over here in the Seven of Wands. In the Seven of Wands in reverse, you're going to notice an individual that it's just basically following a crowd, following vibe. You even see someone holding their hands, maybe having pulled them into it. Basically, my spirit guide said that you just don't want to do that. That is a major thing you're practicing throughout the month. And sometimes not following looks like pulling away completely from an interaction or an event and just you fully being I'm not going. And other times not following is just choosing to approach it in a different way. Or let's say you're hanging out with a bunch of friends and everybody's yeah, let's all, get water ice. I don't know. I love water ice. Let's all get water ice, blah, blah, blah. And then this is you going, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And who knows, maybe an opportunity presents itself later for a more delicious snack. And that's why you were meant to not follow, because you didn't really want it. You're just getting it because everyone else did. This is something important to notice, because you're not just breaking free of what everyone else is doing to therefore create your own opportunities, which is really important. But we are not always fully aware of how small actions in our life add up in a big way in other ways. So something as inconsequential as constantly going along with what your friends are doing seems just like a harmless bonding experience, but you don't realize how much you kind of lose that part of yourself that is maybe you start to gain a little bit of fear that you just simply want to do something different and you just don't want to feel left out or seen differently. And that's just a small example. I'm not just talking about following, I'm just talking about in general in life when we aren't aware of how things add up in different ways. So you're actively practicing throughout the month. It's not about how do I say this? I mean, if you need to cut people off, that's what the situation is. But we're more talking about it doesn't have to be you not being friends with your friends anymore. It can be you're hanging out with your friends, but you're just really seeing every opportunity as how can you just Stop yourself from doing what everyone else's ideas and just do something different. I mean, that might look really wild. Like, let's say you're all going out to have fun. Maybe everyone's just like choosing this one location and you're like, I kind of would really rather go to a movie. Either find another friend in that group or go by yourself, and maybe you end up meeting someone there or running into an old friend and you're like, no hate to the current friend group you have. You can still be friends with them, but you're like, I'm really glad I went and had this other experience. I wanted more. Wow, this feels really good doing what I want to do. I didn't realize how much I wasn't regularly checking into what I wanted to do and then exercising that. Now, going forward, as we talked about over here, this being helpful in the World card is the Judgment card in reverse. So if you notice, this individual is closing their eyes and they're connecting to their third eye. And with it being in reverse, this is taking like a predominant role this month. Now, my spirit guide said that at the minimum, you can practice this when the decision making is really hard. I'm going to explain this idea in 1 second. But I did ask, could you practice this connecting to the third eye type of thinking just like whenever? Can you do it like all month for all decisions? And they said, yes, in fact, like go for it. But at the minimum, if you can rely on this during difficult decision-making time periods, then, at the minimum do that. But keep in mind, when you're making decisions or having difficulty making decisions, they don't always have to be big concepts. Again, back to the water ice analogy. Sometimes if you're like, let's say you're choosing between flavors and you're like, I don't know, and you're just like stuck, you could lean into that thought process and thinking of things that way, and that could be your helpful way of decision making. So what do I mean by when I say third eye type of thinking? So when we lean into this mindset, especially if you are new to connecting to it, it will seem like it doesn't always have a clear rhyme or reason in the way we can understand logically. So sometimes you are pulled to a particular path or decision or choice by a feeling. Sometimes it's an inexplainable knowing. Sometimes you get a clue through like a song or like, something crashes down and falls and that's like giving you your sign. It doesn't always have to make logical sense, but you just naturally are like, I'm going to just choose this. So for example, let's say you just feel weirdly pulled to picking a water ice flavor that is not necessarily your go-to favorite, right? And you pick it and you're enjoying it, but you're like, man, I don't know why I chose this. I'm not exactly loving this flavor. And then suddenly somebody else sees you enjoying that flavor and they come up to you and they go, oh my gosh, no one ever gets that flavor. That's my favorite flavor. And before you know it, you ended up entering a conversation with potentially a new romantic prospect or a new friendship or an opportunity for a career situation. And what initially seemed like it didn't make sense at first does. Or what if it's not instant like that? You just were left feeling unsatisfied and you were meant to feel unsatisfied so that later you would go, you know what? I still feel like I need another treat. That just didn't, make me feel fulfilled. I'm going to go back out today and get another treat. I'm going to get a different treat. And in that process, you end up having this lovely, beautiful experience where you're enjoying walking down the street. Maybe you have this like brilliant idea you feel excited about that reconnects you to the vigor of life and everything like that. I cannot believe I just said vigor of life. But you get what I'm saying. Like there's this unexpected twist in your day that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't followed what didn't seem logical or give you the initial response you were thinking to first. So again, the best way to make that decision if you want to connect to that type of thinking is you want to close your eyes, you want to take a deep breath of silence, and then I would even recommend either saying like, what should I do? And again, you're waiting for a feeling, an inclination. Maybe you just naturally feel almost like an image pops up in your head, or it's like your inner monologue just says like, do this kind of thing. And whatever, you're doing, you can also even proposition it internally, like third eye, that type of thinking. Can you help me out? Where do you think I should go? What do you think that would be the best decision right now? So definitely exercise this regularly because the more you practice it, the less it feels like a mystery. Because interestingly enough, what again first starts off like as foreign or just like you're only really going with like small inklings, you're like, I don't know why, eventually you will become an expert. This is why people who are like psychic, this includes myself, this does not feel like something unnatural. This feels like a natural extension of myself, like another way that I process the world and think. And so you'll start to like notice the signs. It'll start to become something you're more and more connected to. It will start to make other signs, because intuition is fluid in a bunch of different sensory ways, and this will just become something that you naturally gravitate towards. In fact, actually, you could end up building such a relationship with your intuition where your intuition acts before you even are thinking, which is a fantastic connection to be, because to be honest with you, not all the time, but like a lot of the time, our intuition tends to like know what's going on more so than our like waking mind, because our waking mind is like deeply conditioned by like past experiences and societal norms and stuff like that. So that's just something to consider. And then last but not least is the star card. It's a compliment for what you are in general have been doing, but it's a big shift and change that I think is really interesting. So my spirit guide basically said, you're doing excellent, as in the choices you're making, what you're doing going forward in life. Like the star card is like your path, like you're doing great, like you're on it. But they said, while you are doing so well, it's time to sort of shift that path, change it, which I think is really cool to discuss and think about as a possible option for anybody, that your path is still going to continue. There's going to be a clear feeling of like, yeah, I'm on this. Like I'm moving forward. I'm making decisions that feel in alignment of where I want to be and what I feel connected to. But nobody said that that path has to only look one way. Like a good example of this is like maybe going forward in your path, that just looked like, wow, I like have my own business and how cool, like I feel more in control of my daily life. And then eventually you deeply ask yourself, yeah, but what if like my business was like so over the top and everything matched and was my exact style in the place that I create things? What if like that also involved like over the top trips I got to take regularly for my business? And you're just basically questioning like, wait a minute, can I have everything but like turn it up to 1,000? And you're basically going that next step. So essentially, in order to make this happen, it's basically not only a compliment of how well you're doing, but it's sort of like your spiritual team basically being like, all right, girl, like let's level up, let's go. The way that you're going to do that is just simply through what we talked about this month. So again, you're looking for those opportunities and you're thinking way, way, way outside of the box, what everyone else is thinking, beyond like higher level type of thinking you could view it as, but this also involves creativity. You are making those difficult decisions, whether that be to cut off or heal relationships, but also you're being conscious socially, as we talked about here. You are being like, I gotta break free of what everyone else is doing. I have to approach things in a different way for me. And you are really regularly viewing things in a totally different way. Think of this like third eye intuition type of decision making, navigating your world as a new form of sight. And so initially you felt you had to make your path by clearly seeing things through certain choices. And now that your decision making is going to be totally different, you see things in a new way. You see the potential and the success and the ideas of what you would rather connect with so much easier than you did before. Breaking free from other people's thoughts to have your own again, and I love this for you. So I'm excited. Your October month is like big in a good way, and there basically is an ending like creme brulee, so to speak. Oh, when you like crack the shell of you basically going, and more, yes. So I love this for you. A really positive dynamic change in your life is something you're going to enjoy. And I think the biggest vibe I get from this month from you that I'll end off on is there's like this funness of being like, ooh, I've never made decisions like this. Let's see what happens next after I do. What happened from that decision making? Or you learn to realize how that adds up over time, or starting to be like, wow, this is so fun. Like, I thought I would be bored not going out with my friends or making us go to a different place, but like I did it and I feel so much gratification and received kind of the vibe I was looking for, and I didn't know I could go for that, and so on and so forth. So I love you to pieces. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Always, I love hearing it. I will see you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's look at what are your Halloween predictions by looking at the cards. Your first tarot card is 10 of Pentacles in reverse. A very cute Queen of Pentacles upright. The Strength card in reverse. The Queen of Swords in reverse. And the Hermit card in reverse. This is a very interesting collection. Okay, give me one moment, pardon me. And I'm going to look over everything and consult my spirit guides, and I will be with you in one moment. Okay, so let's get started. First, we gotta discuss some things that might initially sound a little scary at first. Don't be scared. Everything's gonna be fine, and we're gonna change it for the positive. But there is my spirit guide said that there is gonna be a downward swing in your health over the course of October. We can change this. You basically want to make that a priority throughout the whole month. That includes physical and mental. Now remember, we're not trying to compare ourselves to what socially, is the standard for everyone else. We're focusing on what works for you. So sometimes that looks like taking a day off because you need that to feel de-stressed. Definitely regularly sleeping, and you find what sleeping schedule works for you, because not everybody sleeps the same hours, but make sure you're getting enough sleep and a good quality of sleep. So maybe go out of your way in order to have that deeper sleep, staying off your phone like an hour before bed, or getting a really comfy blanket of some kind. I'm actually really curious, has anyone ever tried those weighted blankets, and do they ever help with sleeping in general? I'm curious. You could try doing that. Maybe that helps. Again, whatever you're consuming, doesn't have to look like what you think it has to look like. What works for you, but what gives you like energy and makes you feel really comfortable within yourself. And so you're just regularly checking in with yourself and making that a priority throughout the month. And you can basically bypass this and not have anything be like, to your visible awareness, anything happening. So what initially could go one way, you're basically just changing it for another. So definitely make that a top priority every day, asking yourself, do I feel the best I could feel, and what loving way can I offer that to myself in, however that may be. My spirit guide did seem like they heavily were focused on walks. So like definitely make walking a couple times a priority, do some light activity like yoga or something really chill like that. You get the gist. Now, moving forward, though, we have the Queen of Pentacles. And this is really interesting because while we were focusing on one aspect of your life, the Queen of Pentacles basically says that you want to look into every aspect of your life. As you can see, she's really diving into cooking. Over here, she's sprucing up the place. She's making connections and she's feeling really close to the people she loves. And basically, and I think this is kind of funny because I've never received this before in a tarot reading. Basically, my spirit guide said that you want to look into every single aspect of your life and give it that zhuzhing up, so to speak. And again, we're not talking about the idea of it having to look like an upgrade or it's not good enough as is. It's more of just like a natural tuning up. So for example, maybe for a while now, you haven't been cooking because you haven't been having time, or this is not something you feel emotionally connected to. Well, this is the month where a couple times a week you're like having fun looking up activities, and you're viewing the experience of cooking as not necessarily a an annoying thing to do, but a way that you're connecting to your food, yourself, you're slowing down in life, and you're just like having this beautiful quiet moment where like I would really recommend like putting on a great podcast or maybe an enjoyable like playlist, and you're just like relaxing and pulling away from your phone and just chilling out. Or maybe sometimes I think this is a really cool practice. Sometimes people believe in putting like energy into their food, so maybe the entire time you're cooking you're like deeply thinking, oh, I love myself. I love myself. I am enough. I am worthy. I'm really great. I get to know myself better every day and I enjoy it. Or maybe you think just like into the food, like I have energy. I feel amazing. Maybe when you're cleaning, it's not necessarily looking like, oh, it's so bad or negative that you're messy, but the act of cleaning can be a healthy way that you're decluttering like dust and germs out of your environment. Or by cleaning, you're like, hey, I know that this makes it easier for me to think and connect to ideas. So every time that I wipe down a surface or put something in its place, I'm actually creating room for an opportunity to begin. And so as I'm making the space feel a little more organized, I can feel myself growing in potential. And again, we're not talking about criticizing the way it was before or criticizing activities. You're always just looking at it as the potential of what it could be or mean, and so on and so forth. But you're basically going to, the very strong like imagery and vibes I was getting from this is, have you ever seen, and please feel free to leave some suggestions in the comments. I always think it's fun when we connect with each other and other concepts in the comments below. I really always want it to feel like that here, and you guys are so lovely and nice in the comments. But have you ever seen those videos where girlies have those really aesthetic like looking digital planners on like iPads, and they sit down and they organize their month or something, or they use it as like a calendar diary or something like that. But the point is they really go out of their way to make this organizing and planning very cute and aesthetic, and it's a relaxing thing for them. I'm not saying go do that. You're welcome to go do that. But I am saying the vibes from those type of channels is very much like, having fun, looking at different avenues of your life. And again, please do not view it as like you make a list and you're like, get healthier, organize more. You're not trying to create a strict regimen. You're naturally checking in with yourself and you're like, what would you enjoy? What would make you feel better in those areas of your life? And you might check in with yourself and go, if I did have a more organized home, I would feel more relaxed. Oh, maybe if I cooked some more, it would be really fun to discover what foods taste like that I haven't gotten an opportunity to taste before, and I could make it myself. Things like that, you know what I mean? But you are looking into every single aspect of your life, coming at it from that attitude, and there's just a lot of like fun and excitement by it. Because the last thing I will leave you on with this particular card before we move on is the Queen of Pentacles is extremely capable. Like, she has this life within her when it comes to manifesting, because she knows that it just at any point she's the individual. And please connect with this. Tell me if you connect with this. I'm definitely someone who connects with this energy. But when you see something and you go, I could probably make that. Like, you figure it out. Like, you can just DIY anything. Please let me know in the comments below what's your favorite DIY thing you've made. I would love to know. But it's that type of concept and energy. And it's like you tapping into your empowerment by approaching life in this kind of fun way. So with that, I was told a great way to enable that to happen, to get you motivated to find that way to this, because not everybody's in that place in their life. Like, I might be telling that this is something in the month, but you can't fathom even getting there, because maybe it's a struggle to just get out of bed, because that can be the case sometimes. So in the Queen of Swords in reverse, this talks about looking inward, and I love how my spirit guide said this. They said you want to check in with yourself, not with judgment of what you think you're doing wrong or something, but you are checking in with yourself and saying, how do I value myself? and see value in myself. And you're specifically saying, how do I value myself? That would then say, well, I see that I'm a pretty great person, so of course I would take care of myself in this kind of way. How do I value myself? And that's the question you're asking when you're approaching any of these things. You're not viewing it as a judgment of what you think you should be doing or what looks good on pieces of paper or to tell your friends. You're checking in with yourself in this non-judgmental kind of way and viewing every activity as a way of valuing yourself, and that can look different for other people. So I love this for you. It's a really beautiful way to overcome self-judgment and harsh criticisms we have of ourselves that we might have carried from the past, because that is a thing that happens. And it's a great way that sometimes, but just a simple perspective change in the way we're viewing ourselves and approaching things can dynamically change the excitement to approach things normally we couldn't find the motivation for. So love that for you. Then we have the Hermit card. And the Hermit card in reverse does talk about you being social this month, actually very social. And I loved this because I was asking more questions about my spirit guide, because normally the Hermit card represents this idea of you carrying information you learned in your private time to the public. It tends to be a very teaching type of card, but I was told this is actually more about example, in tarot, you can get like multiple different cards essentially. And so you could have gotten to indicate your social status throughout this month as the Three of Cups. But the difference, my spirit guide said, is this is going to be very intellectual based. So in the Three of Cups, it would be more like lighthearted, like spur, goofy energy. And I'm not saying you can't have that this month. It's just there's definitely a lot of stimulating conversations going on. A lot of like connecting through concepts and ideas and information. So I love this for you. I'm definitely someone who, go figure, loves to talk. And I think that this sounds like such a fun month for you, that you're not only connecting socially, but again, when we talk about value, that seems like a really valuable experience for you. It will be really fun and make you feel really in the moment. You'll learn new things and you will have such a joyful experience sharing what you know with others, but there's not pressure behind it where it's like you're teaching other people or having to bring in what, like make it a, this is what I learned, here you go. It's sort of a, hey, did you know this? Look at this. This is things I'm aware of. You know this? Cool, 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 cool. So very fun. And then last but not least, this is kind of like a reassurance card. In the Ten of Pentacles, there is a bit of a divide between you and your family temporarily. I was told do not connect back with them until a serious olive branch is put towards you. This is not necessarily something, this is something where initially in life, when things happen, it's very easy to be reactive in the moment and think of only the immediate sort of, what does this mean? And take it very personally. Think of this as more as creating an opportunity for you to do this other stuff. Like it's like the universe naturally going, you need to spend a little more time taking care of yourself, and we're going to give you some room to do that. And then you just naturally get to go do what you want to do. You feel really good. And then when that olive branch is given back to you, you can re-enter the experience in a much more pleasurable fashion, not only from the interactions between the two of you, but sometimes, well, I find personally, it's easier to interact with others when you have built a better relationship with yourself. But again, this is not a criticism of any of that. It's just a natural reassurance of like, hey, it will look one way this month. It's just working out beautifully to create room for other stuff. Here's what to do. You're going to get back together, and this is how it will look. There you go. Everything's cool and fine. So I love this for you. Definitely a very inspiring, connecting, but very straightforward aspect of your life. I'm all for gentleness and kindness to yourself, and obviously so are the spirit guides, but I do love that for you, it's a very direct, like, how are you valuing yourself? What are you putting into action? Here's the motivation for it. And I love that. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys say and think. I really enjoy reading the comments. And I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next one. And let's get ready for our final group. Group number 4. Group number 4. Let's look at your Halloween predictions by looking at the cards. Your first card is the Tower card upright. Give me just one moment. The Tower card upright. Then we have, Nine of Pentacles in reverse. The Hangman in reverse. Okay. A Six of Pentacles. Upright. Huh. And the Six of Wands in reverse. This is a very interesting set of cards. There is a lot of happiness and positivity with a weird spin on it. So give me 1 second to look at the details of everything, and we will chat in one moment. So just give me a second to look at everything. Okay. So first we're going to start off with the Six of Pentacles upright. I thought this was kind of a bizarre way my spirit guide put it. They said that there is something sweet and unique about you that people naturally like, and you're like aware they like it. And they basically said that you want to, like the imagery of the witch giving candy out to the trick-or-treaters, you want to give this away quite often this month. And I was like, huh? I was like, what? I asked some more questions, and basically this is something that's going to create a lot of opportunities for you later down the line. The reason why I was curious about it is it felt kind of like just people pleasing for the sake of people pleasing, and I just wanted to check in because it doesn't usually sound like the spirit guides. So it does, as in like you're aware people are cool with it, it's a special part of who you are, and you're regularly just being like, here you go, like here's this part of myself. Like it could be like an idea, it could be a thing that you create, it's like a special unique skill that you have. You get the gist. Whatever it is, you are just conscious that you are able to hand this out, and you're regularly being like, here you go, here you go, here you go. And what initially just seems like a kind gesture and something that comes quite easily to you, and people, and you know people enjoy it, later down the line in like the next couple months, you're going to find people being like, hey, remember when you did that thing for me? Oh, so appreciated. I thought of you when this thing came up. Would you be interested? So it's just kind of a low-key, fun, generous side of you that's benefiting you later on. So you're going to regularly do it, regularly tap into that, and you're going to be happy in the long run that you did. But it does sound like an enjoyable experience because it is fun watching people enjoy what is special about you and comes so easily to you, and seeing people connect to that. So there is an in-the-moment satisfaction. But that in-the-moment satisfaction is an interesting turn of phrase I use when we look at these two cards. So in the Six of Wands upright, there is, my spirit guide described it as self-glory, as in, normally when this card's upright, there is this awesome sense of guarantee where everybody's like, I love that thing you did. This often talks about like promotions and everyone really just like recognizing that you have something special to offer, which we talked about here. But in it being in reverse, it's more of like, it's not widely known by like everyone, you know, people aren't hoisting you on their shoulders and really talking about it, but there is a deep sense of awareness and satisfaction that you feel it internally. Like you really feel for yourself privately that you won, like you got it, you figured something out, there was some sort of connection, and there is just a deep happiness about it. But I thought this is really interesting because of what goes on to later say in the Hangman in reverse. This talks about being like gaining a new perspective from you realizing you're stuck in certain points of your life. So a good example of this is, let's say you have like a job and you just don't feel like right now is a good time for you to comfortably leave it. That's not the state of mind you're in. You don't feel like you want to take that risk. And you're also, maybe you're just stuck because it is like the core, like, the genre, what's the term, like the point of employment you want to be in, the field, but it's not like the particular place, the particular job, the particular way everybody else is handling the work. And so you're in this position where you're like, I have to be here for another year or two before I can move on to this other place, or like I have to go through this field. This is sort of the point until the next thing, that type of thing. But I was told that sometimes when we're stuck, or what looks like being stuck, is actually, and again, I didn't get this feeling of lack of movement from you. I got stuck as in like you felt like this was your only option right now. When you're forced to, in certain aspects of your life, to be stuck in this way, and this is your only option, it is forcing you to look at things in a way that you wouldn't gain through another experience. Keep in mind, that's not necessarily true. I always put this out there. This is a huge reason why I'm a fan of tarot, and I took my intuition training course as well. I have courses for both of those. They enable you to look into the future or look at different ways you can approach a thing. If you're open-minded enough to have an honest conversation about certain things, even especially difficult topics, you can in fact approach life in multiple different ways. But because people aren't always, they don't have those resources, or they're not willing to have those conversations, basically the universe goes, you wanted this answered, you wanted this solved, I gave you the scenario that would stimulate that part of your brain. And so because you're forced to be like, okay, how can I see it from this different angle, or this forced me to see value in this, then you're gaining that. So it's really interesting that simultaneously, when you're having this moment of self-reflection in the month where you're like, okay, I feel very self-aware that I'm stuck right now. I have to be in this position in a couple areas of your life. You're like, well, but look at this, or I never thought of it this way, or I would have never gained this skill if I wasn't forced to be with this person type of thing. And so there's this sense of like happiness that's clicking in despite the circumstance of your initial reaction. And then in addition to it, you're gaining this value, and simultaneously it's shifting the happiness within yourself, because when we talk about self-glory, we're not just talking about being like, yeah, I'm really happy. There's a deep sense of like, I did that. I'm awesome. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling like, whoa, I feel really amazing. So it's that next level of satisfaction and accomplishment, but it's this deep happiness because you realize, and again, there's no harm or negativity of sharing that with other people and having other people recognize that, but it's like once you are able to connect to that idea regularly and find it within yourself, you're just this glowing individual who is at all times feeling their most amazing versions of themselves, and not waiting for other people to see it. And I do find when people tend to deeply connect to that idea internally in themselves and realize all that they've accomplished, there's not only deep happiness in life, but other people do feed off of that, and this card does become an upright, and people do recognize it regularly. But you're basically saying, while I feel like I'm on pause in certain parts of my life, I realize I actually, in a sort of cosmic other kind of way, don't have to be on pause with other experiences in my life. I think I'm unhappy in this way, but I'm actually not in another way. And remember, this is not permanent. This is just giving you a lesson and a value and an idea that's great, that you're greatly benefiting and connecting to over the course of October. But it will like carry out in the future in a really beneficial way that not only just benefits you from immediate happiness, but does like kind of ripple effect around you, so to speak. Now, it's good to hear that because it is a little hard to hear this, but the Tower card does pop up. And I always defend the Tower card, but this card does, in this circumstance, does talk about something negative. I do want to be clear about something though. I love what my spirit guide said. They even said it with their hand, like their arm around my shoulder, almost as if they were like comforting you. Like it's this idea where they're like kind of helping you coach through this moment. This individual is surrounded by a cracked tower. So initially their response is like, oh no, this is my, place. This is my house. I'm so sad. This is really dark. Like, I can't believe this happened. What am I going to do? But then my spirit guide said, but this tower isn't their home. It is their prison. And what initially looks like an event that's very negative and initially is going to like rattle you up initially, you suddenly realize you were kind of like not happy to begin with, and this isn't ultimately leading you in the direction you want to go. A good example of this would be like, let's say you initially like, and we're not manifesting this for you, I'm just giving an example. Let's say you initially lost your job, and that would be really negative. And then at first you're like, what am I going to do financially? Oh no, how am I going to get it? And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you easily get your next point of employment, and you're living a completely different life, and you weren't aware of how much that job wasn't taking you anywhere in multiple forms of happiness outside of just financial gain. So think of it that way. You're going to probably have an initial emotional reaction, but you're going to stop when you feel that in this month. After you have it, after you've cried, after you've expressed whatever your initial reaction is, stop for a moment and go, was that really in the long term making me and going to make me happy? Did I feel like I fully could be myself, that all those opportunities were present? Or did I just think I had to do this? Again, we talk about a perspective change. This is something you can easily connect to, and you will connect to, which is really beautiful. Now, the last thing I'll say that's awesome positive news for you is in the 9 of Pentacles upright. In reverse. Now, this is really interesting. I don't usually see this pop up, but I feel like this makes sense after the Tower card popping up, and how I just realized my spirit guide definitely read this in order for a reason, as they always do. They like tell me the cards in like very specific orders. That's why I read in specific orders. In the 9 of Pentacles, it does actually talk about you making quite a lot of money over the course of October, which is so fantastic. Good for you. But normally the 9 of Pentacles is somebody who's not only making a lot of money, but because they're so confident about the money they're making, they just easily like spend it because they know they always have it flowing in. They're really in that like situation, and they're really happy about it. It's a lot of like luxury and stuff like that. But in reverse, my spirit guide said it's more you like making a lot of money, but then finding deep happiness through saving it. So you're going to be like, yeah, I got $10,000 this month. We're manifesting that for you. But then you're like, I feel more satisfaction knowing I just have the $10,000 rather than splurging it in a bunch of different areas of your life. Like you find that's how you want to spend it. That's how you're enjoying it. And it's really interesting because I wonder if it's either an emotional reaction to this and this, as we talked about feeling stuck or something big happening, or if there's like a part of you that knows like while you have the money, you're not quite sure yet where you want to spend it. And sometimes that looks like a longer term, bigger goal, like a house. Or maybe you just know that like while you're appreciative to have this money, because money often people equate it to opportunities. It doesn't always have to be that way. Keep in mind, opportunities can come in your life in any way. But there is a part of you that's like waiting for the special thing that you're going to be excited about spending it on, which I do recommend. Like, it's fun to spend money and have things, but it's even more fun buying things you actually are excited about. So honestly, if you feel drawn to saving it, save it. Saving it's always a positive thing to do with your money because you can always just like do something more with it. But it also feels good to either feel like you're pumped about what you're getting, or sometimes people find great happiness in holding on to money. Like that's the happiness you experience. So I love this for you. Some interesting things you're setting up for the future. A big dynamic different way of viewing things that greatly affects your life in like immediate happiness, but also ripple effects later on. And then what initially seems negative is leading to some extremely positive stuff. So keep these things in mind to give you comfort and ease and excitement throughout the month. And I think it's going to be a great October for you. So please let me know what you think in the comments below. Love hearing what you guys have to say. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.